How about that? Hola hola, wagwan. And in Togo, I don't know how you greet people there, but here in Kenya, it's about 12:05. We're approaching lunchtime. I don't know what the time is wherever you are. And when you come on board, of course, we observe the community guidelines of YouTube and go deep into politics, man. So I really like politics. It's part of something that is pushing my blood every day. And because we are surrounded by this, why not discuss it, you know? The reactions on the street today in my video, it's I'm looking at the protests that are now happening in both Kenya and Togo, and they happened in almost the same timeline. And I decided that today I'll be talking about Togo versus Kenya in some sort of comparison and contrast. So I don't know if everybody is aware about what is going on in Togo. Those people in Togo, are you aware about what is going up, what is happening in Kenya? And those who are in Kenya, I don't know if all of us understand what's happening in Togo. It's Africa for us. So is this the fall of Africa, crisis of the motherland? Yeah, so I hope you've seen journalists, you've seen the streets, you've seen what's happening around with our leaders. For those who don't know about Togo, maybe Kenyans who don't know Togo, I'll be showing the president right here because through my research and observation, I've really had to engage a lot to understand about what the politics behind Togo are and the demonstrations. And of course, you understand the president of Togo is known as Nasingbe. Nasingbe. So let's get the image here. I like starting from there. Yeah, so president of Togo. Let me bring you the photo of the president as at current. That is Fore Nasingbe. Let's see this. If you don't remember, or rather you don't know him, look at this picture here. I hope it's clear enough for you. So that is the president of Togo. The president of Togo. That is For Nasibe. Now, guys, you know that For Nasibe, the president of Togo, is a member of the ruling union of the republic, that is UNR, and he is the son of the third president, Nasingbe Eyadema. Yeah? So His Excellency Faure Nasingbe of Togo decided that he has to keep ruling, right? He has to keep ruling. And as it happens in Kenya, when people decide to be dynasties, what do? They work on the law. And so the coup on the law was being launched by Faure Nasingbe, and he wanted to change the constitution so that it suits his interests, right? So he went about to, create a situation in which he will rule forever, ceaselessly, we call it that. And this was not very good to the young people of Togo, you know. And we saw a lot of demonstration in Lome. Thank you so much, Botru. Hi, how are you? Maybe I can understand the country you are. I am doing this video from within workplace because I really love to do analysis of what's happening around the world. I started with Africa, and sometimes I do some things about US. Of course, today I've planned to do something about US, especially on Trump. But for now, I'm doing a comparison of Togo and Kenya. Of course, these are two countries that have just faced the young people going to the streets and doing something to do with the presidents or what have you. But also is ndio nimetoka kinyozi tim kunyolewa kipara. Hey, mbona unanyoa kipara ngoto Botru? Una super chat? Super chat? Maybe sijanza. I don't do much of super chat. Because unajua the moment you get much into the YouTube aspect, unapata you sunk into one area, you forget about maybe some other aspects. Maybe I'll be working on it, but so that we can have more chats with the audience here. Thank you for being the top fan, and thank you for the like. I've seen it. I really appreciate. And I can see other 7 people on the um, platform. Maybe you can give me a like, and we go into this deep politics of Togo and Kenya. Yeah, because these countries are in Africa and all of them are facing same situation. One in East Africa, another one in West Africa, but whatever they are facing is almost the same fate, right? However, there's difference between what Togo is, why Togo are demonstrating and why Kenya has been demonstrating, or rather they will be, because there is Saba Saba on the way, if you don't remember that. And of course, the young people in Kenya, it's like they have decided whatever it is, they'll do it. So Botor says, anyway, M-Pesa. All right, for M-Pesa, you're trying to ask for the number or what? Maybe I can understand that. Liked, shared, and subbed. Thank you so much, Botro, for this. I love your support. Yeah, your support makes me really keep going, because in this world of YouTube, sometimes we are there doing what we like and also seeking the bundles and, just moving to our feet, and the time we sit down, maybe seeing what to do. So, Botor, maybe with time I'll be placing my M-Pesa number on the screen so that anyone who wants to support can do it willingly if they really need to do it. And maybe on chatting, if I check later your chats, I may respond to it also. Thank you for asking. Maybe there are other fans who would want to do the same, and I really appreciate that, because I've seen Lequini and Wafula David and the rest of us who do political analysis, they do have such kind of support. Or you can also help me understand what to do. Nesh Njuge, hey, are you a Kenyan like me? Of course I am, Njuge. You can even see I am in Kenya. Yeah, so Nesh Njuge, asante kwa kusupport Mkenya mwenzako. Botor, you can write it down, 0729 0729 46 4528. Botor, I hope you've got it. 0729 46 4528. Thank you for asking, Njuge. Okay, I really support you. Thank you so much. I really love the support you're giving me. We started from very few subscribers, but we are really running, and we are targeting at least 1,000, 1,000 subscribers. Maybe at the end of this July, if possible. We are at 111, but I'm very hopeful. In past I had this channel, but I could do one video, then wait for a long time. But I've really decided to dedicate, because I have so much time now. And all my time I'll be using to do what I have to do. I got to do. Yeah, so Botor, got the number. Thank you. And Nesh Njuga, I really appreciate your presence here and the like. And I hope that more people will be coming on board. You can share. You can also help to make your friends maybe follow what I'm doing if they are into politics. And this is Prissy for you. I am called Priska. That is my name. And when I come here, I come as Live Saga TV. I was motivated to give that title because my kind of channel collects everything to do with sagas, whether they're criminal, things to do with murder cases that we are seeing, mysterious disappearance of people. And when cases are being, pulled along, I gather information. And sometimes if I can get live, then I'll be going to that with time, growing just step by step. That's my goal. I know by the end of the year, I'll really have grown with you fellas, and I really appreciate Botru. You've always watched me, Nesh Njuge, and I always also do see you sometimes. I don't know whether I've seen you on my other channel, that is edutainment for us, and I'm so appreciative. So guys, Togo has been on fire, just like Kenya, our country, Kenya. We've been having people on the streets, the young people, and not just the young, because we saw Okia Mtata, we saw Maraga for the first time, and we saw other older fellas on the streets. And of course, we saw people like Sifuna supporting the aspect of, demonstrations, And as long as some people feel like demonstration should cease, I don't know if there is any other language these people understand. Because if it comes to even matters of civil servants, you realize that it's very difficult to place your grievances to anybody who is in charge. You know, nobody cares. Everybody, like the leaders, mind their own business and they don't care what the citizens' grievances are. And sometimes it pulls the young people or whether they are old people to the streets. So here I'm doing a comparison of Togo and Kenya. If you don't know about it, you realize that Togo has been on fire just like us in the whole of last week and even 3 weeks ago. So they called to the streets, as I've told you. Since 2005, we have had protests in Nasingbe's dynasty, you know. The father was there, and then the son, and they rule like kings, you know, in a republic. Yeah, it's over half a century, you know, and we have so many cries echoing in Togo. Yeah, but the palace walls are thick, you know. That's the analogy behind what I'm going to give you. So the palace is very thick in Togo, and as people, the echoes of cries continue to fall, protests have become the only communication maybe Nasigbe dynasty will have to get it in Togo. So guys, as you roll the cameras to Togo, you realize that in Lome and Sokode, there were a lot of protests there. And if we look at the Kenyan situation, a comparative aspect, Kenya rolled to protest last year, 2024, during the June 2025. And why? The young people were not being listened to, or even Kenyans at general. The president came in after ruling and he decided that he will be doing the like bamboozle people, force them into actions, force them to accept things that they don't want. And so in the streets of Nairobi and the rest of the streets like Mombasa, Nakuru, and all over the country, people had to run into tear gases and dancing, you know, tear gases dancing in air like ghosts, you know, and protesters all over shouting for food, justice, jobs, and nothing came to their table. The cry for the daily bread has become a narrative that buttons only can be the result of what the voices are calling for. So guys, let's get to see something here on the streets of Togo, and I'll be also showing something to on the streets of Kenya. I just want to see, you to understand that the protests are led. They don't just emerge, you know. They are led. They don't just emerge. So let's see a typical example of Kenya. Then we go to Togo here. Of course, this is what the young people came to the streets and claimed, you know.
Dialogue will be the way forward. The Gen Zs think they don't have a space to be heard, and they will do whatever it takes to be heard.
In your house, you can have a child, and this child, if you don't give your child chance to express him or herself, they'll start breaking things, misbehaving, doing funny things. And I think this is exactly what's happening in Kenya. The Gen Zs think like they don't have space.
Yeah, so guys, Washington James, I really appreciate your presence here. Welcome. Welcome on board as fan number 2, though Nesh Njuge came here. And Washington James, I really appreciate you can give me a like when you come to the house. And guys, we are into this political discussion. If you have any idea, you know, a comparative thought about Togo and Kenya, you can pass it. You are free to give comments in relation to the topic because it keeps us going. You know, live streams are supposed to have interactive people posting comments about the topic you are doing and us running on and on. So Washington James, welcome. Thank you for coming to the house, Washington James. I really appreciate your presence here. You don't know what it means for me. It means a lot, you know. Any person popping on my channel when I'm doing a live stream really motivates me to keep going. They encourage me that next time I'll have audience, you know. And they tell me that I'm not talking to myself, but I'm talking to people who are there. So guys, feel warm in the house, and as we talk about this aspect that are surrounding us, why not talk about them? Because if you don't talk about them, we will, you know. Yeah, so the aspect of the recycle bin cabinet, man, in Kenya, it came about that At some point, people are so tired with people like Murkomen. Remember the time he came about with the belts and he was bragging about how much he has done. So they just recycle, change them from one place to another. Kituri Kindiki was also just from one area to another. We saw that Alice Wahome was just pushed from one area to another. Aden Duale, Saipun Tuya, and Rebecca Miano, and many others. I can't mention all of them, but you understand, in Kenya, it's about recycle cabinet. So when they claim that there are going to be changes or reshuffles, it's not about leaving anybody who's not working. It's just about changing the positions. You go to you go to a class and you just reshuffle the students and continue. So sometimes it doesn't really work because these people still are accessing the funds. They are still the ones in power. They still have a voice to air. But the young people, they don't have any voice. The rest of the citizens, they lack a voice to air. Now, what is happening in Kenya again is that we've had a narrative whereby people are being abducted. And of course, sometimes they are using our networks to access us. It's so easy for somebody to pick me today. As I'm doing my video today, if they feel like my video is not okay, they can easily pick me and take me where they want. And that has been happening. Let's just see this, the unfettered access that Kenyans are complaining about and nothing is happening. And of course, they believe that when they follow bloggers, they follow people who are giving information, that they are winning. However, I thought that if only the leaders would have, settled down to solve the problems of economic challenges, job, food provision, prices of goods and all that, education aspect, health, it would have been better instead of hunting people around and abducting, causing this fracas all over. So let's look at this.
Since last year, according to a State of National Security report tabled in Parliament early this year, Kenya witnessed a 44% increase in kidnappings and abductions between September 2023 and August 2024. Now, according to KNCHR data, of the 82 abductions reported since June 2024, at least 29 victims remain missing.
Did you hear that, mathematics guys? So some of the things that are causing demonstration in Kenya, as long as they may make them be trivial, they are not that trivial. People are missing, abductions. If out of 49 abductions, only 29 are missing, still missing, right? That means a lot. That is kind of suppression of people so that they don't talk. I think the case of Ndiangui is so fresh in the minds of many people, and as far as he'll be pulled around, we are told that DCI were aware where he was even before he emerged. I don't know whether he was using his phone or something to trace him. So they have the ability to trace you and pick you like the ego, but you don't have any right to do whatever you'll do. Now let's go to the case of Togo and see what happened and why did they begin. It began from somewhere, right? It began from somewhere. So let's check this with this dynasty.
But how did one man turn a democracy into a dynasty overnight? Let's find out. It didn't start with a speech. It didn't start with a coup. It started with a single quiet oath behind closed parliamentary doors, a moment most citizens didn't even see live. On June 24, 2005, President Faure Gnassingbé stood before a newly restructured parliament and swore an oath, not as the president of Togo, but as the president of the Council of Ministers. A title unfamiliar to the public, but powerful enough to redraw the political architecture of the nation.
I didn't play the entire of that because of the interruption of the advertisement, but I hope that you saw exactly what happened there. The president of Togo kind of challenged the citizens of Togo by changing the title, and the changing of the title here was supposed to give him powers over Togo so that he could do whatever he wanted to do, like he would have the powers to change even the constitution and all that. And so citizens were not that foolish, this is the current generation with people getting information from all over, and they were informed about what's yet to happen. Now let's get to the aspect where now people decided that enough is enough and they went to the streets, right? Yeah, let's check on that. Maybe before that, I would want to talk about something here. It's always good to compare as I bring about statistics. So, why do our lands bleed every 5 years? Yeah, in Togo, the cry was "Faure must go." Faure must go. And in Kenya, it was open the servers at some point, you know. Then now there are different chants here, same blood, different dates, you know. So at some point in Togo, that is, was it 2017 protests in Lome and Sokodu? The people are demanding that Faure must go. Now in Kenya in 2007, during the post-election violence, the call in Kenya was open the servers. You remember? I hope you remember. And we had so many people falling. In 2023, Kenya, we had again other demonstration. And it was still on open the servers, let the right candidate be the president. And it went all over. Blood was again poured, young people being shot even from their houses and all that. Now, different chants, same blood. Different dates, same blood. Now, Togo has had several protests, that is August 2017, October 2019, and sporadic resistance to 2022. Kenya has had same demonstrations, different agenda, but their demonstration all the same because blood is spilled, people are shot here and there. And that happened in 2007, 2013, 2017, again in 2023, 2024, and finally 2025. But always, the people flood the streets. Even as people continue dying, the rest don't fear. They still feel the streets. If you saw the latest demonstration 2025, hey, the crowds really surprised me because on Thika Road, CBD Nairobi, the towns like Olkalau, Nakuru, Mombasa, and even fresh towns where something like this has never happened, you know. Now, what is the debate around this? You know, in Kenya, if you look at the situation, the streets speak when elections are stolen, right? Or life grows too costly. Like currently, people are desperate, crying against the costly life in Kenya. And so that's why we have a lot of people on the streets thinking that maybe they'll have to rescue their situation through that. Now, the demos rise when promises rot, right? But you still have the rotating helm, right? Now, in Togo, the situation was different. The people chant against dynasty. You know, decades of one bloodline, the father and then the son, following each other in tandem. You cry for change, they cry for freedom. Both are thirsty, you know. Now, we saw the protests in Lome, Sokode, and Kara. Internet, every pictures of people demonstrating in Togo, and they said that they were called traitors, right? We saw them saying they were tired. In the situation of Kenya, the multi-party Togo sees no monarchy in this case, you know. But even as people vote, you know, even as people vote, there is fire that follows that. In 2023, we saw people marching in the streets of Kisumu, Nakuru, Migori. Police opened fire. Some never came home. We saw people shouting about how high cost of living. We saw them shouting about the belief in democracy that cannot be fulfilled. Yet, even democracy can always wear a wolf's grin, right? Do you know a wolf's grin? You can imagine that. So let's get to this to see the demonstration in Togo here. Let's get to Togo here. Yeah, so this is the situation of Togo, if we can see here.
But, Dr. Mamandi, I need to ask you, one thing that does not add up for me, I mean, listening to my colleague in Togo, Gokubi, this, he says, traces back to the constitutional amendment, and Chukwemeka talks about term limits. But the constitutional amendment that gave Fonya Singwe this life presidency, if you like, happened in March. It's taking more than a year for us to see a protest. I mean, is there something else happening here? Because you think that at the time when big change happened is when people would naturally, spontaneously then react to it and demand.
So now, in the situation of Togo, it seems that the reaction really took a lot of time. Yeah, the uprising happens after, like, the president of Togo changed the title as early as March, right? Is it March? Yeah, but the uprising came, some month later. When you look at March, that is April, May, then June. June, that is when the protests came to Togo. People ask questions. Is there like, why were they waiting? What were they waiting for? What were they waiting for? In the situation of Kenya, of course, we've seen the uprising, or rather the demonstration, going on and on. Of course, there have been a series. When Ojwang was killed, it didn't take long. People went to the streets, you know, demanding that Lagat has to walk out of office. When elections were held, and people felt like it was the unfair picking of the president, people went to the streets spontaneously. Now, that is the difference between Togo and Kenya, actually. Now, let's see something else here for Togo. When you look at Al Jazeera presents the number of people who died in Togo during the protests. But before that, let's just see the pictures of what happened on the streets to compare that to what happened in Kenya. So, like here, let's see what happened here. Is it?
Il faut laisser. On doit venir, il va faire pour lui aussi, ma foi, non, c'est quoi? C'est forcé, ça c'est pas une question de chrétien, mais je sais pas. Dieu fait pour toi, pour laisser quitter. Un autre va venir, il va faire pour lui aussi.
Now you actually see that in Togo, the violence rate was a bit low, though the police confrontation with the demonstrators was there. And of course, the coverage, we can't see the media, but we are seeing people there. It's like the coverage was not so much as in Kenya. In Kenya, the young people have been on the forefront, and they are doing the journalism, blogging, like it doesn't take a while before they do what they have to do. So we look at the Togo and Kenyan situation, and we see a different picture of what happens in the field and what happens away from the field, and the results and the consequences of whatever happened. Now, you look at Kenya, for example, you saw the confrontation having hooting, looting, and shooting, as I told you. Now let's come to the situation of Kenya here and see the covering here that happened. And of course, remember there's a promise that Saturday, people will be coming to the streets. No fear. No fear, no going back, right?
City center, the signs are unmistakable.
Yeah, look at that.
Burned storefronts and the distant hum of Hamas traders trying to piece together what's left of their businesses. Many businesses were looted or vandalized during Wednesday's demonstrations. Some owners say they support the protesters' calls for justice, but not at the expense of their livelihoods.
Yeah, so of course, at the end of the day, there is a lot of destruction because the looting, whether it is the hired goons that we keep hearing about, The aspect of political interference, of course, it happens a lot in Kenya. I don't know. I don't see the same situation in Togo's protests as compared to Kenyan protests, because Kenyan protests, they become an interest of politicians who want to prove a point that they are with the government, strongly standing with them, so they hire goons. I don't know whether there are also some people financing some other goons. I'm not so sure about it, because currently there are people arrested and they are being investigated. We've not yet got the reports to understand whether the situation is just independent or it's a corporate thing, you know. As I told you, as I told you, the grinning giant on the streets, you know, that's what we keep hearing. And now, guys, it's in comparison to the Togo situation that is going on, and that we can see what is happening in the streets as they happen to, you know, go about and demand for the end of dynasty. When you look at the Kenyan situation, where I've told you, it's a call for economic aggression. And that is why Sabasaba is still coming, a day that was introduced by ODM and the current Raila Odinga, who has now retired, possibly from this kind of confrontations. Now, the wolf's green is here with us, guys. Now, let's see, when exactly did it happen in Togo? Yeah? Now we are asking ourselves every day, when will the streets of Africa stop bleeding for dignity? You know, like, people have to fall, heroes have to fall, you know, the young people have to die for dignity to be acquired, and it's never acquired at all. It is not during elections. Elections have become the exchange of the stick, just like it happens in marathon when people are running and you give the next runner a stick and they proceed on with the corruption and the kind of poor leadership and governance that happens all over. And it has run into institutions, parastatus being led by dictators, people who think that they have to choose who to, to favor and all that. So all sorts of favorism and the kind of looting, people looting even from institutions and pretending that they are really having integrity, you know. So I don't know why, in one way or the other, people believe that maybe a coup will be the solution, but a coups are the worst, because if you look at countries where the coups have been, like Sudan, you look at Algeria and maybe other places, I don't know whether they're better, yeah? But forever, there is a rise to rewrite the fate of individuals in Africa, whether Togo or whether Kenya, that in every square, every street, every slum, every suburb. That is why when you check on the different social media channels, or rather the TV stations, you will see people in the slums of Dandora, the places like, Mukuru Kwanjenga, and all those places. You go to the CBD, you go to the squares, you go to the other towns like Mombasa and all over the places, and even the rural towns, people trying to demonstrate, you know, from Uhuru Park to the Lomes Freedom Square, if you understand the Nairobi. The fire of resistance has one mother, and the mother of this is hope. People holding on to hope, and some of them even giving up their life totally, saying that they have already paid the mortician, ready to die, but they die for a cause. And you saw the slogan some of the young people had on their bodies, written there, and they are like, I'm going, mother, I'm trying a mission, I'm trying to change the situation. If I die there, bury me, but know that I've done my part. You know, that kind of writing. That is not what I've seen among the Togo people. The demonstrators are just there shouting, you know, demanding that the president leaves office, that is Faure, but they don't have slogans yet. Now, let's look at both cases. What is the comparison? The comparison is that people feel betrayed, you know. If you look at Fathers of Nations, which is being covered at high school level, you realize that African leaders have become so selfish, materialistic, greedy, corrupt, and people who just bear their leadership on favorism, you know. And I've told you, this is not just in higher offices. It is even in institutions, parastatus, and all over, you know. A situation whereby you silence, and there is a lot of betrayal happening, right? So the silencing and the betrayal, the broken links, you know. Now you realize that in both Togo and Kenya, we have silencing of people. Those who want to speak are silenced, either through the law or through kinds of abductions, killings, such as what happened to Ojwang. Then we also see betrayal, of course, the leaders betraying those whom they lead, in both cases of Togo and Kenya. Then we see broken governments because, like in the case of Togo, when a president wants to lead forever, change his title so that he can change the constitution, what does that mean? You know? But that does not break the spirit, because people rise now, they realize that this is too much and they call for a change. Now, Africa's children deserve better, right? They deserve better and they know it. They deserve better in terms of jobs. They deserve better in terms of working environments, salaries. And you realize that in most of the African nations, people are now running to other worlds. They are running to America, UK, Canada. People who had even a master's PhDs are going to do jobs as low as, security. We've seen that. And when they go there, the irony is that they earn better. They make their families better. Or we have those who have opted to be jobless, work for themselves, maybe using the social media platform, TikTok, YouTube, and all these things, Facebook, and they are now earning and considering that an option is to sit in the house than even go to work, because you work and then you have to pay a house, I don't know, something to do with the housing tax that you don't even understand what its role is. You work every day, at the end of the day, your budget is not enough. It's even, you can't manage that budget that who is sitting at home and doing these other things is doing. Influencers, for example, So no wonder people are really going to the streets. Let's look at another comparison of Togo and Kenya. Now in Togo, after the demonstration, 7 people were killed, during those demonstrations. And we had the DRC Rwanda peace deal going on then. Now remember, Congo is also one place that we have had a lot of, strife. That even yesterday we saw that Trump was trying to intervene, that other governments in US have been just neglecting the thing, but Trump is trying to intervene. The Congo feuds, So let's come here to just see the aspect of the fallen people in Togo.
Focusing on building a united Sahelian confederation with the main driving force from the younger generation. Key officials and representatives of various youth collectives from the AES member states made speeches. Representatives from Togo and Chad were also invited as honored delegation from a broader regional perspective. Themed Rethinking Regional Integration, the role of the youth.
So I do not know whether this kind of forum can change the narrative, or whether it's about the President Faure trying to see what people are protesting against, and maybe he turns into a new leaf and makes great changes. Now you realize that the protests in Togo were a bit different from Kenya, because now people are there burning stuff like the baskets and all that. Now in Kenya, the situation was vandalism, looting and shooting. As I told you, it came about as if there were people behind everything. Those supporting looting, those supporting shooting, and those supporting the hooting, And you see that difference clearly. But the entire cause, as I've told you, it's fighting against those betrayal, the silencing of genuine voices, the aspect of constitution or law. When someone tries to play with the law, just like in Togo, the president changes his title and then he wants to rule forever, the dynasty aspect. Now let's look at another aspect here, Thousands Rally.
That nation have been protesting over the last few days, demanding the resignation of President Faure Gnassingbé. Protesters have been met with force from security forces. The protests come as President Faure Gnassingbé faces growing calls to resign over changes to the country's constitution that will keep him in power indefinitely. I want to run you through what we know has been playing out for quite some while, and do a bit of a trajectory for you this afternoon as to why we're here, and really if there's that big question.
So you realize that when you look at the situation of Togo, we saw the army moving with the bandits, like a kind of forest, moving streets and coming for the people on the protest, right? If you saw this, you saw it, the battalions. So the army had the battalions and was aiming towards the protesters. And the streets were being burned, but nothing specifically was being destroyed. Now, when you compare to Kenya, Kenya people are striking, or rather demonstrating, and they were going for things, you know. I've already showed you that. I've already showed you some such an example. So now, the question is, will this stop? Will it stop? If I may ask you, what is your idea? You can drop the comment in the comment section. Now let's look at here. Sabasaba is coming. And people are saying we will be on the streets. This is Mombasa for you. Just look at this. Now guys, once you hear that in Kenya, when one group announces that they'll be on the streets, there is a group somewhere sitting behind the, you know, this, you know, the decorum and pretending to be in very important meetings. But what they plan is how to counter this. So as long as people will want to go for peaceful picketing, the CS of security, or rather interior, whatever, interior security will be planning on how the police should deal with these people. So they go about with the battalions, and they begin to fire the tear gas, and that engineers the young people now to become violent, picking stones, throwing, and this counter then brings in another group which has been sponsored by, whether they are politicians, whether they are whatever interest parties are. They come about, and they now start looting and vandalizing property, and sometimes even beating these demonstrators who are peaceful. We saw an example where Al Jazeera took some of this, and of course we saw we saw Laura Madoa. Yeah, I don't know whether I still hold that here, but of course you saw that. So let's just see this again.
They had come to the morgue to look for their friend. It's not good news.
This is the scene after the demonstrations, right?
But he appeared to have been beaten and had burn marks. Moses Mwangi's body was brought here last night. He was just 22 years old. They all say they had gone for the protest on Wednesday. We had hope. We still don't believe it. We didn't think we'd find him here.
Now remember, after demonstration in Kenya, that which came clearly is returning home is not a must. Some people will not return home, and even if you return home, are you safe? We saw a situation of so many women who are raped, for example. Young people who have been abducted, and in some cases, some found in morgues, burnt, some of them violated, physically tortured. So it's not a must that you will return home after protests in Kenya. I don't know the case of Togo, because in Togo protests, we only saw 7 people who had to die. But in Kenya, we have more than 19. Though it is reported that there are 19, they might be more, because it unravels. The unraveling comes later. So guys, I have been here for about 42 minutes trying to see through the narrative of demonstrations, the fall of dynasty. Now, let's just finish with the case of Congo, you know, and Congo is about a situation of unrest. Maybe let's look through Congo first, and then we can end the narrative. Yeah, let's understand, what is this unrest in Congo? What has it been? In fact, Congo and Nigeria, if you are, you can follow me. Yes, of course, the DRC has been experiencing escalating unrest, primarily driven by the M23 rebel group and armed fractions. So this conflict has led to widespread displacement, severe humanitarian crisis, and increased human rights violations, with attacks on civilians and people. Now, looking at Togo, by the way, I had forgotten that they could go into homes and beat people. No wonder maybe in that situation they just decided to beat people so that they can settle down. When a dynasty takes over in dictatorial aspects, it becomes a situation of whereby you have to really threaten and scare people, you know. So Congo war has been led by Kagame's army, amounted the war of crime with growing unrest and clashes over there. I don't know whether I can get a video on this just to show what has been happening. Let's see this one.
Watch this. Make a UGC ad promoting coffee. Tired of sugary soda?
Will a deal to end war between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda work?
Signatories to the agreement, whether it's...
Let me see whether it will be clear here.
They have killed Rwandan soldiers. How responsible for the killing?
What happens next?
Okay, Vabra, I'm just going to come back to you very briefly if I can, because something that Gatete said is important just to pick up. He was talking about, I was asking him about the M23, but he was talking about the FDLR, the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda, which is very much part of the deal. And DRC is supposed to neutralize the FDLR to stop their operations. Is that going to happen?
Well, yes, there has never been any point, any moment in history in which the Congolese state, whether that be under Joseph Kabila previously.
Yeah, so you understand Joseph Kabila thing and the fact that they are hoping that there'll be peaceful deals that will be arising. But if you look at the streets, of course, the scene is many people carrying their luggage and moving. Let's see this.
Rwanda, many welcome the economic prospects tied to the agreement, saying it could revive long-disrupted cross-border trade.
There are indeed benefits to signing these agreements, both in terms of business and cross-border relations. For example, many Rwandans used to work in Congo, but due to the current insecurity, they no longer go there. However, if these agreements are implemented and things run, France welcomes this step forward. We salute the
So you realize that Congo is a different situation, not protests actually, but there has been unrest. And with those kind of rebel groups, just like it happened in Sudan. So we are seeing that we have the case of France and USA trying to intervene. We hope that the dangerous new phase that has risen of late with robust, it will meet robust measures and responses that will create a better environment for them. But guys, everything is not very white, There is no much peace when such situations happen in a country, to tell you the truth. Every time you live with tension and there are worries, and in fact parents do not sleep whenever they hear of such situations, and maybe their children are at college or wherever they are. They think that there's a harm that is going to meet them, that the bullet will meet them, that they'll be abducted, that they'll be facing any kind of humiliation. Women think that they'll be raped, Sometimes people in the houses, they think the bullet will be astray and find them. Yeah? And in the situation of Congo, of course, you're never peaceful. You don't know what will happen tomorrow. So you can't even do agriculture. You can't do business. Even sometimes health and education matters, are squatted. So you are always squatting. You don't know where to move and how to move. So guys, let's hope for the best for Africa, but there is a fall, and the pricing demand for must go, and we hope that things will be well. Bye for now. Adios. Thank you for coming on board. And if you watch this later, I'd really appreciate, drop a subscription or rather comment. I really love that. And Botor, I really appreciate your presence. Nesh, Njuge, I really appreciate your presence. Washington, James, and any other person who was forthcoming during my live stream. I'll be doing another live stream at 2 on a different topic. So let's keep going, because this is one match that we have to go for, just to understand the narration behind Africa. Bye for now.